This will be the July 2014 CSR exam. The plaintiff attorney will be Ms. Bender. The defense attorney will be Ms. Banks. Here we go. People may call their next witness. Thank you, Your Honor. People call Roger Grayson. Mr. Grayson, good afternoon. Hello, Your Honor. You are being called here today, so the attorneys can each ask you some questions. Just listen to their questions and answer them the best you can. Okay. If you are asked about something you're not sure about or don't remember, just tell us. It is important that you not guess about something just to give us an answer. Okay. We just want to know what you personally saw or heard. Do you understand? Yes. Thank you, sir. You may proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Grayson. Hello, ma'am. Where do you work, sir? Knott's Berry Farm. And what is your assignment at Knott's Berry Farm? I am the manager of security and loss prevention. And what are your duties there? Handling the operation of the water park and the hotel. Were you on duty on the date of February 14th, 2014? Yes. On that date and time, did you make contact with someone that you see here in court today? Yes. Could you please describe for the jury where that person is located, what they look like, and what they are wearing? The female sitting to my right, she is wearing the green jacket. Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant? Yes. Now, where did you initially make contact with the defendant? At the front desk at the hotel. Why did you make contact with her that day? I was asked by the security officer to meet her there. What was going on that you needed to meet with the defendant? The officer told me that the subject didn't have any money to pay and didn't have an ID. What exactly was she being charged for? Renting the hotel room. Had the defendant been staying in that hotel? Well, when I got on scene, they had already gone back to room 529. Why were you called? What exactly was going on? Since the woman didn't have any money to pay for the room, the security officer called on me to look into it further and see if we need to get the police. Okay, now, when you say the subject wasn't able to pay for the room, was she just checking out of the room? Yes. Or was there something else going on that made her leave the room? Yes, something was going on in the room. And what was going on? Well, the officers were responding to the room because the guests were smoking in the room. When security went there, they saw what they thought to be contraband in the room. They saw needles, cigarettes, and also two subjects coming out of the restroom. Now, when you say officers, are you talking about police officers? No, just one hotel officer. Did the hotel officer also see the defendant in the room? Yes. Now, what happens when a guest of the hotel violates the smoking policy? They would be fined. Are they allowed to stay on the property? Depends on the manager working that day. It is their discretion. Then I object. It is speculation. Overruled. He is just saying what the practice is. Do you know who the manager on duty was on that day? I think it was Sandra Nelson. How long have you known her or worked with her? We have worked together for over 14 years. Do you know what she would do in that situation? Objection, Your Honor. Sustained. In this case, was the defendant here allowed to stay at the hotel? No. Why not? She wasn't registered to the room. Now, who are these other people that you are talking about that first went to the room? Normally, it is a security officer and the manager on duty of the hotel. The hotel officers, are these sworn peace officers? No. Do they carry guns? No. Are they in uniform? They have a uniform with a badge. I think it kind of looks like a police officer. When they go to a room, they identify themselves as Knott's Berry Farm Security. Correct. What happened when the manager went to the room? Everyone except the defendant fled the room, but the defendant stayed behind. Correct. Was she detained? She wasn't really detained, but she was questioned about who was going to pay for the room, so they asked her to go to the front. Is that when you were called to the lobby area of the hotel? Yes. Okay. What happened once you made contact with the defendant at the front desk? Officer Spencer told me that she didn't have any money and she didn't have an ID. I spoke with her and questioned if she was going to be able to settle the charges for the room. What was her response? She said she didn't have any money and would have to contact a relative to come settle the charges and the fine. Were the charges eventually taken care of after the police were contacted? Who paid the fine? It was a gentleman who arrived. I don't remember his name, but she contacted him on the telephone and he went over to the hotel. Once the charges were paid, then what happened next? At that point, she said she needed to retrieve her belongings. We all went upstairs to the room for her to do that. When you arrived to the room, did you just allow the defendant to go back inside? No. Why not? Officer safety. What do you mean, officer safety? Well, because the room was really in disarray. I saw needles and other things in there, and I wanted to be the first person walking in for safety reasons. What did you see when you walked inside? It was a mess. There were items everywhere. There was an empty bottle on the table. Objection. Overruled. Was there anything else that you noticed on the table? There were things all over the place on the table. There was an empty bottle. I think it was a Sprite bottle that they would use to smoke some sort of a drug. Objection. Lacks foundation. Sir, do you have any? Excuse me, I need to rule on the objection. I am sorry, Your Honor. All right. Everything after empty bottle will go out as lacking foundation. Ask your next question. Thank you, Your Honor. Proceed. Were you able to determine what in that room belonged to the defendant? Yes, ma'am. What did belong to the defendant? Objection, foundation, sustained. How were you able to determine what belonged to the defendant? I asked her what belonged to her, and what did she respond? She pointed to a backpack. Now, of all the items that were all over this room, she pointed to a backpack. Correct. Okay. And where was this backpack located? On the bathroom counter. Did you simply return the backpack to her and let her leave? No. What did you do? I questioned her if that was her backpack. She admitted it was. I wanted to confirm it was hers by having her identify something inside. Okay. What happened when you went over to the backpack? The front pocket was slightly open. I looked inside and there was a plastic bag with smaller bags inside. There was also a bag of a white substance and some pills. What did you do once you saw these items? I immediately turned to the defendant and asked if it was hers. She said no. But she had just told you that the backpack was hers, correct? Objection. Counsel is testifying. The objection is overruled. You may answer. Can you repeat the question? Absolutely. So when you initially showed her the white substance, she explained it wasn't hers, but she had just told you the backpack was hers. Isn't that correct? Correct. Now, what did you do once you found these items in the backpack? At that point, I requested Buena Park Police to be called over the radio. Okay, and sir, in your capacity as the manager of security, do you wear a uniform every day or do you dress much like you are now? A casual look like I am today. You are not armed during your shift as a manager? No. You are not a sworn peace officer? No. And did you detain the defendant while you waited for the police department to arrive? After we called the police, I did. I told her we were waiting for the police. Nothing further at this time. Counsel, you may begin. Your Honor, I was hoping we could address the issue from this morning before I begin. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to send you on a break at this time. Don't discuss the case. Please return in 20 minutes. Thank you, Your Honor. All right, we are now outside the presence of the jury. There was a question regarding a video. Let's proceed. Ms. Bender, you may inquire. Mr. Grayson, during the break, we talked about the hotel having a surveillance video in place. Yes, ma'am. And something you also mentioned was that there is, in fact, a video with the defendant on it. Is that correct? Correct. And what is depicted in that tape? her coming out of the elevator with the backpack on. And this is the same backpack that you found in the room? Yes, this is the same backpack where you found the narcotics and all of the items that you have described during your previous testimony. Yes, and this video was taken at the same time as this event that we are discussing on February 14th, 2014. Yes, how are those tapes maintained? They are at the hotel main office. The system is there and they hold it for a couple months. At this point, do you know if that video is still available? No, I don't know. But you saw it and you recognized the person who was depicted in the security tape as the defendant who is here today. Yes, nothing further at this time. Counsel, you may examine. Thank you. All right. Mr. Grayson, what was the date and time on this surveillance video? It was the same day. I am not sure of the time. Was it before or after contact with security? After. Okay. So my understanding is security contacted the occupants of the room and some people fled, right? Yes. My client was the only one left. So she was taken down to the hotel front lobby. Yes. And then somebody came and took care of the bill. But then she asked you if she could return back to the room. Is that right? Yes. And then you went up there with her and ultimately wound up seeing what you believed to be controlled substances in the backpack. Yes. And then she was detained pending the police arriving. Yes. So at what point after all this occurred was she seen on a video with the backpack? After the whole call happened, we were trying to identify the people who left the hotel. That's why we were looking at the video to have a transcription of the suspects. I am really confused about the time frame that we are talking about. Well, I will try to explain it. Let me just ask you a question and we can go from there. All right. Was this after my client had been arrested when you reviewed the surveillance video? Yes. But the tape was showing something that happened before you ever contacted the people who rented the room. Is that right? Yes. Did your manager or anyone from the hotel contact the occupants in that room in the early morning hours on Valentine's Day? I believe there was one contact early in the morning. There was a second call, and that's when I got called in. It was early, probably 7:40 or somewhere around then. That's when I got called. And so it is your understanding the time period shown on the tape where you saw my client coming off the elevator with the backpack. She was wearing it, not just carrying it. Okay, but that was sometime before 7 in the morning on February 14. I don't remember the time it said on the video. All I remember is looking at it after she was arrested. And what caused you to review the video? Objection, irrelevant, overruled. We knew the time frame when they checked in, I believe, and that's how we were checking to get a description of them for the police. Are you speaking of the people who rented the room or just the defendant? We were looking for the couple who originally rented their room. That's when I saw the defendant coming off the elevator with them. When was it that they checked in? I don't remember the exact time they checked in. The time when they all came off the elevator was about 8 in the morning. Was the tape you were reviewing taken from the morning of the arrest of my client? No, it was before. How long prior to her arrest? I believe they had been there for a couple days before the smoking violation. Is it your understanding she was arrested on the same day as someone reported the smoking violation? That's correct. I would assume that once a guest is registered, they can come and go to their room as they please, of course. There would be no reason to stop at the front desk. Is that correct? Objection, speculation, sustained. Do you know how many keys were issued for this room? I wouldn't have any way to verify that. What is your standard practice when somebody registers for a room? We usually ask how many keys they will need for their stay. Do guests ever ask for additional keys? Sure, sometimes people will lose their key or leave it in the room and they need to get another one. Do you monitor how many Total keys are given for any one room? Not usually, no. How are you so positive that the backpack you see in the video is the same exact backpack that you saw in the room that morning? It was a green backpack and she was wearing it. Obviously, her hairstyle is pretty distinct. Oh no, I understand that she is very distinct, but my question is about the backpack. Okay. What about the backpack did you observe in the video that made it so significant to you? It is the only green backpack that I saw in the room that day. Yeah. But was there anything distinctive about the backpack that she was wearing in the video? Objection, asked and answered. Well, it has been, but I will let him answer it so we can wrap this up. What was the question? There is nothing special about the backpack you remember from the video that allows you to say it definitely is the one from the room. No, it just looked like a green backpack. Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further. Let me ask you a question. Okay. Did you ever turn that video over to the police department? I don't believe we did. Thank you. All right. Anything further? No, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Grayson. Counsel, I want to go ahead and bring the jury back in since they have been waiting for a while. Will you be ruling on my previous objection now? I will rule in the morning. Let's finish up today. We will address the motion in the morning after I research some of the cases you both recently cited. Thank you, Your Honor. The jury is now back with us. Ms. Bender, any further questions? One last area, Your Honor. All right. Mr. Grayson, you told me when you entered the room you were concerned about officer safety. Is that correct? Correct. And at that point, you were alone with the defendant. No, there was a security officer there also. Okay, at that point, did you stop and do a complete inventory search of the room before the police arrived? No. When you went into the room, you asked the defendant to identify what property was hers. Is that correct? Yes. And she told you about the purse inside the backpack, right? Yes. But she told you about the purse inside the backpack after she pointed at the backpack and said it was hers. Isn't that correct? Yes. Your Honor, I object to the form of the question as leading. Objection is sustained as to the last question. What was the very first thing that the defendant told you about the backpack? That it was hers. She pointed at it. Correct. Did she tell you about some of her belongings that you could find inside her backpack to identify it was hers? Yes, she said. There was a purse inside, that her purse was inside. And her claim of ownership of that backpack didn't change until you confronted her with what you discovered. Isn't that correct? Objection, leading. Sustained. When did her claim of ownership change? When I discovered the bag of white substance, then I turned around to her and she said, "That's not mine." Did she say anything else? No. Now, once your security officers contacted the defendant in the room and saw what they thought was contraband, was the defendant given time to pack up her things? No. Was she simply escorted down to the front desk where you met her? I wasn't there in the room, but she was escorted downstairs. And what's your hotel policy once contraband is found in a room? Everything stays in the room until the police arrive. Nothing further. You may examine. Thank you, Your Honor.